Fox News host Will Cain is doing his absolute best to make sure we never underestimate the power of confident ignorance. In one segment, he manages to deny a clip exists, find it live on air, then pretend it doesn't even matter. He's trying to ignore the fact that Donald Trump threatened to deport U.S. citizens to foreign prisons. And what you're about to see isn't just gaslighting. It's what happens when propaganda collapses under its own weight.
Donald Trump's made a statement about wanting to deport American citizens. Do you have that in front of you? I've not seen that statement. Can you please quote where that comes from, that he would like to deport American citizens?
He said it in the Oval Office. He said he wants to go for homegrowns next, people born and raised in the United States. Citizens.
Do you have anything?
And then
do you have anything besides your word on that? I have not seen that. So beyond your word, do you have the source of that? I would love to see that clip or that transcript of him saying he wants to deport American citizens.
There is a clip online. I encourage people to just Google Donald Trump homegrown, deporting homegrown criminals. It is something he said in the Oval Office.
Well, you understand how television works. We have these fancy earpieces. I like to get very few instructions from my staff while you and I have a conversation. But we are in search of that clip as we speak. So as you and I have this conversation for the next several minutes, we'll be looking for that clip.
Well, Cain starts strong by pretending the quote never even happened. No curiosity, no nuance, just flat out denial. Because acknowledging the truth would mean admitting that Trump said something indefensible, something authoritarian, something kind of fascist. But just seconds later, that denial crumbles in real time.
I challenged him, by the way, on the idea that President Trump wanted to deport homegrown citizens. Here is the clip referenced by Maxwell Frost from the Oval Office of President Trump talking about homegrown criminals.
I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways.
The President of the United States, on camera, in the Oval Office, saying homegrown criminals are next. Not implied, not misheard. He said it. It's the kind of comment that should stop a conversation in its tracks. But instead, Will Cain decides to treat it like it's some kind of speed bump.
That hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country.
And he goes on right after that to say, but we have to obey the law. It will always be to obey the law. After years of very fine people, among other hoaxes, I'm suspicious of any Democrat quoting President Trump in full context. And I make no apologies. None. On not being able to know or recall that specific clip because it doesn't reinforce my fever dream Handmaid's Tale vision of America, where Lily, who reads The Bulwark on the Upper West Side, is about to be deported right after Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Cain admits he doesn't even remember it. Then he shrugs. It's not journalism. It's cowardice. Because if you watch that clip and still don't grasp the danger in Trump's words, you're either willfully ignorant or strategically dishonest. And if you think I'm exaggerating, here's the full context. Trump wasn't being vague. He's being very direct.
The mandate, the people wanted to change everything. And they wanted to. They demanded. They love you. They love what you do. You know, I'm not your supporter. I want them to do, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right? It's not big enough.
Trump tells the president of El Salvador they'll need 5 more prisons because American citizens are next. It's not policy. It's a threat. It's the president of the United States openly musing about stripping people of their citizenship rights and handing them over to a foreign government. And that isn't just morally bankrupt, it's against the Constitution. And if he doesn't know that already, he's the most unqualified president in history. Even Trump's allies couldn't spin this one clean.
This was a screw-up, in my opinion. The administration won't admit it, but this was a screw-up. Mr. Garcia was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador. He was sent to El Salvador. The Democrats say, look, you know, we told you Trump is a threat to democracy. This is going to happen every other Thursday afternoon. I don't see any pattern here. I mean, you know, someday pigs may fly, but I doubt it.
Are you concerned that more mistakes could happen?
Well, sure. None of us want mistakes. Mistakes bad. Doing it right, good.
Yeah.
But it was a screw-up, and I understand why the administration is bowed up and said, we won't admit it's a mistake, because if they do, they'll have their throats torn out.
Most people would call that cowardice and a lack of principles and leadership. If they're more concerned with being held accountable for a policy that destroys people's lives than they are with destroying people's lives, they're telling us they're willing to destroy people's lives. But Republican Senator John Kennedy calls it just a screw-up. You know how bad something has to be for him to even admit that? This guy co-signed all the nonsense Trump has been pushing, but even he couldn't touch this one with one of his ridiculous one-liners. So Fox News is still playing defense because they're committed to the lie, and they'll ride it off a cliff before admitting that they've lost the plot.
The second Supreme Court ruling that happened under the cover of darkness, which was to stop this flight full of Venezuelans, we know there were innocent people on that flight. There was someone on it who had been picked up as quote unquote Trenda Aragua because there was a picture on Facebook of him with a multicolored pistol that they were saying was actually a gun, but it was a toy. And they put out pictures of, I think, 9 people who were on this flight, even though there were pictures of him in 2 different boxes. So like prisoner number 8 and 9 was the same person. And they said, look at all of these tattoos. But if you actually did an analysis of the tattoos, you would see things like biblical verses, which I don't think mean you're in a gang, or the name Alexander tattooed in Arabic over the date, over 1986. So I understand that it's hard to say that you're sorry. And I have a toddler, and I know what it's like when their face is covered in chocolate and they say, I didn't eat the cookies. I didn't eat the cookies, Mama. But that's what's going on here. They need to slow down and follow the process. We're not against deporting people. Just get it right.
Well, as usual, Jessica Tarloff has to state the facts to set the record straight. The Trump team won't even admit it when they're caught red-handed after admitting they got it wrong. I mean, they're one of the groups that told on themselves. It's actually worse than watching a toddler deny eating the cookies with chocolate all over their face. That's what we're dealing with, a political movement that refuses to acknowledge reality. It really is thriving off of Kellyanne Conway's infamous line about alternative reality that she pitched at the very beginning of Trump's first term. But to cleanse their viewers' minds of all that inconvenient reality, Fox still makes sure to bring on guests willing to make the cartoonish argument that what we're seeing from these fascist MAGA folks is what Democrats are somehow taking part in.
I remember before Bill Clinton was elected, Democrats had gone too far left. But there was a movement, the New Democrats, who wanted to bring the party back to the center, which we did with Bill Clinton, balance the budget, reduce the debt and deficit, cut welfare, tough on crime. This Democratic Party, Laura, is going further left, becoming abusive, and I think, frankly, to be blunt, irrelevant or worse. And that is tragic for my party and tragic, I'd say, for our two-party system.
Doug Schoen describes himself as a Democratic pollster on Fox News so that they can claim an insider says the party's becoming abusive and irrelevant, all while MAGA Republicans float deporting citizens and treating the Constitution like an annoying afterthought. I mean, Will Cain and the rest of these guys at conservative media outlets run a daily exercise in trying to normalize fascism as democracy because one petulant guy in the White House demands his loyal minions to repeat his lies on a daily basis. People that they labeled as having Trump derangement syndrome since this guy showed up keep getting proven right as excuses that make no damn sense are peddled as reality. Because, by the way, Maxwell Frost, who enlightened Cain at the beginning, was actually wrong. Trump didn't just call for American citizens to be sent to foreign prisons in the Oval Office. He did it on Air Force One, on the campaign trail, another time in the Oval Office, and even had his press secretary make the case for it. But Will Cain didn't hear it because he's not paid to hear it.
The president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas you're going to be discussing?
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, if he would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different. If they can house these horrible criminals for a lot less money than it costs us, I'm all for it. They even break into apartments and rape elderly women and beat up elderly men, beat them to hell. And I don't want these violent repeat offenders in our country any more than I want illegal aliens from other countries who misbehave. I want them out of our country. I also will be seeking permission to do so. We're going to get approval, hopefully, to get them the hell out of our country along with others. Let them be brought to a foreign land and maintained by others for a very small fee as opposed to be maintained in our jails. Let them be brought out of our country and let them live there for a while. Let's see how they like it.
You mentioned that you're open to deporting individuals that aren't foreign aliens but are criminals to El Salvador. Does that include potentially U.S. citizens, fully naturalized Americans?
If they're criminals and if they hit people with baseball bats over their head that happen to be 90 years old, and if they rape 87-year-old women in Coney Island, Brooklyn, yeah, that includes them. What, do you think there's a special category of person? They're as bad as anybody that comes in. We have bad ones too, and I'm all for it.
The president has discussed this idea quite a few times publicly. He's also discussed it privately. You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would be heinous, violent criminals who have broken our nation's laws repeatedly, and these are violent, repeat offenders in American streets. The president has said if it's legal, right, if there is a legal pathway to do that. He's not sure. We are not sure if there is. It's an idea that he has simply floated and has discussed.